presence I've not felt since...
I felt a great disturbance in the Force.
Obi-Wan is here. The Force is with him.
You can't win, Darth.
A tremor in the Force.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Remember, a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him.
So if you are a fan of the original trilogy more so than the rest, then you're gonna really enjoy what I have in this case today, because I am finally unboxing Obi-Wan's from episode 4, which I have not ever reviewed one of these yet. I also have his episode 3 and his Padawan saber over here in my display case, and I much prefer those. Even though it is the same design as episode 3, there's something about the way it is in episode 4 that I just don't care as much for, but I'm hoping that this one changes my mind, because what happens more often than not is that when I don't like a saber and I finally get a nice one in my hands, I end up liking it a lot more. So shout out to John over at the Collector's Outpost, because he actually inspired me to pick this one up, and I've been working on my original trilogy collection more so than the rest, so this is a great addition to that. N-Saber sent this over to me in a profiteer, and it has a crystal chamber chassis as well. You can also use my code at checkout if you want to save some credits on this. All right, I am ready to open this up. That is actually pretty nice. It is wickedly heavy. I can already tell in the first 10 seconds that this is the heaviest saber I now own. I very much doubt I will be spinning with this. Even though this is a TXQ hilt, I cannot stress how top-notch this feels in the hands. It really does feel like a genuine high-end collector's piece, and obviously it looks incredible too. Anakin Starkiller from Comparison.END did amazing with this. We've got a blade plug here in this bag. This one is much better than the ones that you normally see me unbox. I like this one a lot. You've got your bag with your charger, Allen wrench, and screws in there as normal. You've got your salt packet. So we've got a second emitter piece here, and this one is for when your blade is not in the hilt. This way you can have movie accuracy for when you're displaying the hilt. Also got a pair of these white museum gloves. These do help reduce fingerprints and scratches. Just try to not get them dirty, because a lot of mine get dirty very quickly. Another salt packet. You've got your instructions in here, and these literally tell you absolutely everything you need to know. They are very detailed now, which I very much like that. We've got the display stand and the display placard in here, and this brings me to the first thing that I really do not like about this saber. And no offense at all, but personally, I think doing this is really dumb and takes away from the feeling of the saber, because I would rather it say something about Obi-Wan or even A New Hope, but instead they're just branding it with N-Sabers, and again, I just don't like that. And when you do put the display stand together, it's going to look like this, which is pretty nice. And you can take your placard, which does have adhesive on the back side of it, but you don't actually need to take it off, because you can still put it in there. And if you want to remove it later on, you can take it out and switch it if you have more than one like I do. And the last thing in the case is the Neopixel blade, which does come protected on the bottom, and you've got the wrapping on it. This is a dual-worthy blade as well, but I just would not recommend dueling with this hilt, especially with it being a thin neck. This is all the same stuff that I normally unbox with TXQ sabers, but they do give you everything that you need. I am actually really pleased with this hilt. I like it a lot more than I thought I would for sure. And as far as I understand, this is a really, really accurate representation of what you see in episode 4. This is entirely designed off of all real parts. So this is supposed to be very, very accurate to what you see used on screen. It is so heavy. I actually have his episode 3 hilt here as well. Well, 3.5 from the Kenobi series, but same thing. And I actually used to think that this one was on the heavier side. That one feels like a paperweight after holding this one, because man, I swear this has to be like 4 or 5 pounds, like no joke. I think it's best if I just get the scale out, because I'm very curious. I'm gonna guess it's at least 3.5 pounds. Let's see if I'm right. It's only 2 pounds and 13.4 ounces, which is, I don't know, why does that feel so heavy when it's in a saber? Like, That would never ever feel heavy in my day-to-day. Feels like it's 5 pounds, I swear. To put it in perspective, this little fuzzball weighs the exact same amount, and they feel nothing alike in weight, but they're the exact same amount. If you guys don't know the history of the saber, it's actually really fascinating, and it's one of the most unique hilt stories in probably the entire franchise, just because of the things that it took to make this. So let's go ahead and take this apart. You can screw it down here on this pommel piece. Oh, wow. Okay, so that twists individually as well. I did not know that. Look at that. I guess this piece comes out on its own. You can take this off too. That looks kind of naked. And you can also twist right here as well. And just remove the whole thing, but I'm going to put that back together because that looks really weird. So if you twist it while holding both of these together like this, then you can remove it and have both of them come off like that. Twist that back on, and I'll set that over there. And to get the chassis out, you actually have to do a little bit more work than normal, and there's a retention screw hidden right here. Take your Allen wrench and twist this up, and I recommend taking it out completely just so it's easier when you put this back in, because you have to kind of eyeball it a little bit, and then you can just slide the chassis right out, just like that. Boom! That's clean. That is clean. And you can actually see the crystal hidden right in there. Both this saber and this chassis is kind of mind-boggling to see at this price point, because years ago, it was really hard to find something at this level that was not over $1,000. So you've got the Profi board on this side with the SD card on top and the port to connect underneath that. A little tricky to get to, but definitely not impossible. Speaker on the bottom, crystal chamber, Neopixel pins on the top. You got gesture controls, smooth swing of course, and you've got the 2 buttons on the side, power button on the top, aux button on the bottom. And lucky for me, this chassis does have a kill switch, which is my favorite thing to have. And when you want to put this back together, just make sure that you have the side with the retention screw facing up on the hilt and the chassis, and just line it up to the best of your ability. It's not too hard, because when you twist this down, if it gets stuck and starts giving you trouble about midway through, then you probably can tell that you're just drilling into the chassis and you want to stop doing that. But if it makes it down pretty much the whole way with ease, then you know you've got it in the right spot. And I got it in the right spot first try. Slide the pommel back on. Now currently this has the blade emitter on it, but I'm going to switch it for the display piece so it's more accurate. So I'm going to twist it off up here. Twist that right on. So because I did my research before making this video, I actually watched the Collector's Outpost review over this. This blade plug is not going to fit into this, and that does not look good at all. That looks really bad. So what you can do to fix that is just twist it in half. You can see it just comes right off, and then put that right down in there, and boom! A completely flush fit. At first glance, everything across these 2 hilts looks exactly the same, and you would be right to think that. The main differences lie in pretty much everything changing in size on the hilt. There's only about 3 or 4 big differences across the 2, one of them being the writing on the neck on episode 4 is gone on 3 and 3.5. The button sizes on episode 4 are much larger than 3. Now one thing that the 4 has that the 3 doesn't is the belt clip right down here. The 3 doesn't actually have that, it has a Covertech wheel instead. The clamp cards are also different between these 2. On the episode 4, you have the Exactra TI-20 calculator bubble strip. On episode 3, I'm not entirely sure where this comes from, but I do prefer this one more, but this one is just really iconic. The top portion of the hilts are pretty much the exact same, but the only real difference is there's a slight bevel here on the 3 that is much deeper than the slope on the episode 4. It's almost flush. I'm having a hard time telling if I'm actually right about this, but when I look to see how flush the top of the episode 4 is, it looks like it is intentionally warped to show age and weathering. This section right here is also noticeably bigger in size on the episode 4. You can see just how much more exaggerated those are. And on episode 4, you obviously have that Graflex etching on the back of the clamp and the 4 lines top and bottom. And you'll also notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of these holes spread out across this clamp section. And that is not here on the episode 3. And you can actually lift this clamp up and the bubble strip will come out. This 3.5 variant that I have is the 89 Sabers version, and this is actually one of my favorite sabers in my collection, which is saying a lot because I've never cared much for Kenobi's hilt. The chassis on this one is pretty nice. It's nothing over the top and it doesn't have a crystal, but it is still nice. The 89 Sabers also comes with an extra speaker cap for accuracy, and I really wish that they did it with this one because they just leave you with this, and that's kind of unfortunate. It would look a lot better if they just included that. I'm not going to spend too much time on the Padawan hilts, and I'm also wearing the gloves because this one is a pain to clean off. And this is the TXQ version, which I reviewed almost a year ago maybe, and I did not realize shortly after making that video that I would grow to absolutely resent this saber. This has to be TXQ's worst saber that they've ever done. I would almost compare it to a Disney hilt. It's just that bad. This one up here is the LGT or the Nexus version, which surprisingly I actually prefer over TXQ. They did a very nice job with this one, I have to say. I mean, even the blade plug is pretty nice. They did a very nice job with this one. That's probably one of my favorites from Nexus. Now, normally at some point in the video, like right now, I would be showing off the fonts that come with this saber, but this time I'm gonna skip out on doing so just because this comes with the same exact fonts that I have shown off in like the last 3 videos. So if you want to see what fonts this saber comes with, you can go and watch either my Shin Hati video or the Anakin limited edition version, and both of those will show you exactly what comes with this.